Yeah, and there's a lot of temples here where parts of the temples are missing. People just took parts and disappeared. So, in fact, if you go to the MIA, Minneapolis Institute of Arts, you can actually see some, aspects of these old and architecture that made their way to the United States. I think the Dayton's bought it and nice enough to actually donate it to MIA. So you can see some of those, pieces over there. Do not try this at home. I don't do that either. But as I said, yoga and meditation, right? So that is the easiest way to connect through any religion for that matter. Whatever your faith is, you just close your eyes, get rid of all the external kind of noise that's around you, and just focus inside. And whatever, way of divine spirit that you connect to, whatever religion, just say that word out loud in your mind and just try to focus, and I tell that to my kids, if not anything on a spiritual level, at least on a physical level, just being able to sit in one place. I mean, my son and me have a battle all the time. In 5 minutes, he's got to do something. They are always moving. I mean, how many kids nowadays are on attention deficit, hyper, activity medications? Well, it didn't exist. This disease didn't exist 10 years ago. It's because everyone's bundled up inside their homes on their video games, constant this, constant that. Just go out and play or enjoy the nature. Nobody does that. So that will help you physically, if not spiritually. We talked about the scriptures. There's 4 holy books called the Vedas. Vedas means eternal knowledge. And then Bhagavad Gita is one of them. And this script is kind of the Sanskrit script. So it's kind of written in a certain kind of way. So all living creatures, as I said, the whole creation is divine. So all living creatures are identical sparks, or we call as the soul, right? So that's just a little spark of the big divine, fire that's out there, right? Not real fire, but just a metaphysical way of talking it. So we try to relate to the soul inside and not to the physical body. Our differences of race, gender, species are all superficial. We're all eventually, so why do we have this life, right? Our life is to understand. It's like a test of fire, basically, that you do all the right things in life, and then you will realize what your true identity is. That's when you completely liberate yourself. Buddhism talks about, moksha, liberation is once you realize who you are internally, then the outer clothing automatically, or your human existence disappears. So you treat everybody with respect, love, compassion, whether it is a human being or the nature or it's an animal, because that divine is everywhere. So if you can see that divine in anything and everything, you will kind of move to that next level automatically. So that's kind of the core of Hinduism. That's why we always kind of bow down and say namaste. Namaste basically means I, realize that divine spark or spirit within you. We're all connected. We're all the same. That's why I'm trying to be humble. I'm not going to stand like this. So that's what we're taught to do. Young kids, when they get up in the morning, before they put their feet on the ground, they say a prayer that, hey, Mother Nature, sorry, I got to put my feet on you to get my day going. So please, I apologize for that. So just be humble, respect everything around you. So entire creation is divine, as I said, and that includes the whole earth, universe, the nature, animals, and us. So we all are connected at the end of the day. What's unique about human life, where we have free will, right? And we have intelligence. That sometimes we think we have intelligence, but sometimes with the kind of things you're seeing on TV right now and stuff people are doing is ridiculous, right? So Dharma is the eternal code of life. There's some like the commandments, basically, truth and non-violence, love, compassion, respect everybody, stay pure in your life, always go after good education, work hard, don't be selfish, serve the community, and then try to control your body and your senses. And the key thing is, this is only possible if your mind is under control and we are averse from, all the vices like anger and greed and jealousy, that sort of consumes us. And we're just running, trying to chase our tails all day long. But you got to kind of take a step away from it. All the actions, because of our intellect and free will, whatever actions we take has a consequence. So that's where we call karma. Karma is a Sanskrit word. And whatever you choose to do intentionally it gets sort of balanced into your bank account. That's the spiritual bank account. So you got to pay off your debts. There's no free pass. But if you are true to yourself and you are a good person, some of that debt can be kind of taken away without having to pay it off, in a way. So what happens? We believe in reincarnation because you got to pay your debt, or you get this life based on what I did in my past life. So during death, the soul discards its present body like an old garment, and then you're given another life. And this cycle will continue endlessly until all our actions become selfless. And then the cause of our existence is going to disappear. And then we realize our true divine nature, and we become one with that supreme, consciousness or the soul.
How often does that happen?
So the stories we hear, right? And again, it doesn't happen that often, but it happens slowly over time. So there have been like this, there's a sage called Swami Vivekananda, or their lives, we call this something called samadhi. Samadhi means they go into a perpetual state of meditation and they will not wake up. So they'll sit in one place, close their eyes, and someone just seals the door because they have realized their true nature and they are gone. And they intentionally do that. And this has happened to young people, like in their 30s and 20s, where you look at them and you come in their presence, you will feel different. Now, as I said, it doesn't happen that frequently anymore. It used to happen in the past. As I said, things are sort of degrading. And those people nowadays who are there, they're not going to be out there telling you about it. They are on their own, or they will be subtly helping other people out. But it does happen. So yeah, there's a lot of stories in the Hindu literature, and they all kind of follow a certain path, and it's happened very frequently. Yeah. So as I said, spiritual wisdom, it's always nice to have, if you're going to go on the spiritual path, a guru. Guru means a teacher, basically, so you need to have someone to, help you down that path. Otherwise, it's a very, very hard path to walk alone. We talked about devotion, meditation. These are certain things you can do on your own, living your regular life. The ultimate goal of human existence is to detach from this material world, find your true identity, and eventually get liberation, which is not easy. How does Hinduism think about other religions, right? It's a very tolerant religion. In fact, the Hindu temple in Maple Grove actually has, so there's three religions that actually came out of Hinduism. I was going to say that one was Buddhism, one was Jainism. I think we had a talk on Jainism, and Sikhism. These are the guys who wear turbans and they wear kind of a beard, that's a part of their religion. So these actually came out of Hinduism, and everybody kind of coexists nicely in India. In fact, in this temple, there's a Jain temple within the Hindu temple because, we're kind of sister religions, and, they are a smaller community. So they have a small temple there. There's some ancient, scriptures which basically say there's one truth, but the wise speak of it in different ways. One does not become inferior by following another religion, because we see virtuous humans in other religions as well. These people are mine, but those are not mine. Such are thoughts of the small people. For the great ones, the whole world is one family. So these are certain sort of, scriptures that have existed for thousands of years within, because we are all kind of the same. We're not, I don't have three arms and I don't, walk differently. We all talk differently. But I think religions were formed by humans in a way. There's obviously a divine revealed, part of it. But then we like to maintain our identity, right? So we kind of create these little things and fight with each other unnecessarily. So it's good to be universal. That's kind of how I look at it.
Could you say a little bit more about the line about the Jews and?
Yeah. So over time, I won't exactly give you the dates, but there were some people who were persecuted, right, in the West, and part of some of them were called Zoroastrians. So the Zoroastrians in Persia were persecuted. There were Jews who were persecuted. There were Sufis. It's a part of Islam, basically. They're not, they kind of do different things compared to like the Shias and the Sunnis. They're Sufis. They're more poetic and, do certain things. So some of these people did seek refuge in India, like hundreds of years ago, even 1,000 years ago. They came by boat, basically. And these people were actually given refuge by these Hindu kings at that time, or whoever the Hindu ruler was. and they were allowed to practice their faith, in their way. Now they did assimilate into the bigger community, but their faith still kind of stands as is. So Jews are not it's not a very big community. Some of the Jews actually, in the, was it like 1080 or so, like Matthew, if you've read, scriptures, Matthew came to, what was his name? They used to call,
Yeah.
He was called something. I can't, I'm just blanking out right now, but he was the first, sort of the saint who came to India to sort of, talk about Christianity. And some of these Jews converted to Christianity at that time, but there's still some Jews that kind of live in India too. There's some Jewish communities there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from the chat.
Yes.
Marilyn, it's a hard question. Marilyn would like to know, if beings are equal, how does the caste system fit in?
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
kind of a typical cliche question. Let me just put it that way. So caste system, the word caste comes from a Portuguese word called casta. Okay. So caste system really didn't exist at any point in Hinduism. There was something called as the varna, and varna means vocation. So for any society to work in an effective manner, it's technically divided into 4 classes, and it exists nowadays too. You have sort of the intellectuals, or the people who are teachers who teach the people, right? Then you have sort of the business class who kind of make sure the economy is going great. Then you have sort of the laborers or the working class who kind of, is part of building and construction and stuff. And then you have sort of the security, or kind of the kings or the rulers or the protectors. So that's how the whole thing was designed. If you look in the Hindu sort of scriptures, some of the scriptures were actually written by, he was actually like a thief, basically, but he went down to the right path, realized his true potential, did things. So there was this, you're not stuck in one zone at any point in time. Now, over the last 200 years, when the British came over, right, they legalized something called as the caste system. Portuguese did that. And that was just to sort of break down the society, unfortunately, in a certain way. So all the legal aspect of that caste system is, if you do your research, is over the last 100, 200 years. Now, people were not allowed to go out. They were not given good posts. So everyone started getting segregated, So if I'm a plumber by profession and I can't really go to a university or talk to anybody, guess what? The next of my kin became a plumber. And then they got these we call those as like, little trade names that each of these families got. This is the locksmith, this is the plumber, and they just continued down that path. Now, socioeconomically, you look at any part of the world, the people who have the money and the power like to stay in power. So they would start oppressing the people underneath them. Now you go into Europe, it used to be the same thing. You had the peasants and you had the working class, or you had so the caste system just gets, everybody likes to talk about it. It gets a bad name in India, but it doesn't truly exist. There's socioeconomic hierarchy that unfortunately exists there, where someone poor doesn't get opportunities like any other place for that matter. But it just gets labeled under Hinduism. In fact, there's like Muslims and Jews and Christians living in India, they come under the caste system. Well, then it's not Hinduism, right? It is just a way things kind of just sometimes work. So if you ask me what I do, I came from a certain family of doing certain things, but I don't even know what that is anymore, because here I have a profession that I follow, and it honestly doesn't matter. You go to the Hindu temple here, nobody asks you what your caste is or what family you came from. You come and you pray, because at the end of the day, we're all equal on the inside. So that's how I would talk about it.